Thanks again for your patience. We'll get started in another minute or so. We're still admitting people. Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to join us for the King's Hammer Boys Academy Program presentation. I'm Vince Gentili, the Director of Soccer Operations, and joining me to lead the presentation will be James Thomas, the Boys Academy Director. We have Coach Tony Gray that will help us moderate this presentation. Today we'll go over the programming for the 2020-21 season and answer questions. If you do have questions while we're presenting tonight, please put them in the chat and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. Today, here when we're talking about the Boys Academy program, we want to talk about three key objectives for us as we were looking forward to enter into this season. We're looking to provide stability, to provide exposure and showcase the players, as well as building for the future. And we're excited to talk with you about that this evening. Here we'd like to present to you the King's Hammer mission statement. Our mission is to positively impact the development of youth in our community by providing soccer and educational opportunities to young players of all ages and playing abilities, and to create a lifelong passion for the sport of soccer. We will play an active role in the leadership, development, and personal growth of our players and staff by being an active member of our community through service, partnerships, and programs. Our ultimate goal as a club is to encourage, inspire, and empower each player and coach to be able to reach the highest level possible within the game and their lives, while helping develop leaders and individuals who will inspire others to do the same. I'd like to introduce the core values that all club leadership, coaching staff, and players will be guided by as they're part of the King's Hammer program. Respect. Treat each person with dignity and courtesy. Leadership. Empower yourself and others to enjoy success on and off the pitch. Integrity. Do the right thing. Follow the golden rule. Passion. Energize, engage, and inspire yourself and others. Creativity. Think outside the box with innovation and imagination. Your journey begins now. Here, as you can see, the pathway for a player that will be joining King's Hammer, starting with our grassroots and developmental programs in our Little Lions, which also then would lead to the recreation and juniors program, where some of these players might have started out. The next layer for them would be our youth program, our Central and South youth programs that then lead into the pre-academy and then the academy program, which we're here to speak to you about this evening. Here's our partners for King's Hammer. Our strategic partners include Nike as a kit provider. Soccer.com acts as our virtual King's Hammer store. Demisphere and Playmetrics are used for club registration and communication platforms. Sports Recruits is used for college recruiting. Healthy Roster is for athlete injury management, and Beacon Christ is our official kit sponsor. Here's the Boys Academy coaching staff for the upcoming season. Since becoming the Boys Academy director, James has done an incredible job improving his staff year after year, and this upcoming season is no different. Here you can see the lineup for the 2020-21 season, beginning with our U11, which is the 2010 birth year, leading up to the U18, U19, 2003/2002 age group. This also includes a non-traditional fall team, which would be our trapped team for trapped 8th graders. Here's our King's Hammer directors. Most of you know Kevin McCluskey, who is our Chief Operating Officer. Kevin Butler is our Chief Branding Officer. I'm the Director of Soccer Operations. Dave MacGyver is our Senior Director of Events. Lisa MacGyver is our Tournament Director. Chris Black is the Girls Academy Director. James Thomas is the Boys Academy Director. Paul Nicholson is our Central and Pre-Academy Director. Michael Ratliff is our Central Boys Youth Director. Ryan Hanbury is a Central Girls Youth Director, as well as a Senior Staff Coach. Our Little Lions is run and directed by Michelle Okamura. Simon Wigley is our Boys and Girls Director of the South. And Dan Ensley is our General Manager and Technical Director from the Bluegrass affiliate. Kelly Meyer is the Director of Communications. Ryan Gray is our Juniors Program Director. Tony Capuro is our College Recruitment Coordinator and Volta Futsal Director. And now we'll turn things over to James, the Academy Boys Director, so he can run you through the programming for the upcoming year.
Thanks, Vince, and thank you to everyone for making time to meet with us on a Sunday evening. And I greatly appreciate the opportunity to get in front of you. I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy throughout this crazy time. This slide here outlines, obviously, our programming for 11 through 19, which is what we offer within the Academy, and kind of the price points for going forward. These price points haven't changed from last year. They include 2 league fees, referee fees, training and game fields for rentals, training 3 times a week, which should include EPT going forward as well. And then obviously within the Academy, the winter training in January and February, 2 times a week as well. At 11 and 12, that includes 4 tournaments. And then 13 through 19 includes 5 tournaments throughout the year. What's also not listed, just to touch on, is our trapped group that is offered, and what the definition of the trapped group is would be current 2006 8th graders, or well, actually moving into 8th grade. That group would not have an option to play in the fall in high school. In Ohio, I know in Kentucky, playing high school as an 8th grader is an option. We offer fall to those groups in order to continue to train. So they'll train twice a week with Tehran, who's going to be our trapped group coach, and then also play in Buckeye as well, and then have a tournament option at the end of that season as well. If there are any questions specific to the trapped group, I definitely encourage you to reach out, or you can also put them in the chat and we can try and answer them within the group setting as well. As we look at our platform moving into next year, we will continue with the US Youth Soccer platform. And as we start from the bottom at the local and state level, our teams competing in state leagues. So in Ohio, that's OSSL. In Kentucky, that's KPL. And also your local leagues, which would include BPL or Buckeye, your TPL and your GCSL. A couple other leagues included in that could be KSSL and then CPL as well for the local leagues. As we move up, looking at a regional level, for our Great Lakes Conference would be club versus club at the 15 to 19 level, and then Prem 1, Prem 2 in the first division at 13 and 14. Level above that becomes the National Championship Series. So that's where we encompass our State Cup, our President's Cup, the regional championships for both of those competitions, and then national championships for the groups that can make it that far. A difference for some of our groups that have competed at National League, USU Soccer's decided to rebrand that a bit. It used to consist of 32 teams divided into 4 different groups, and they'd play a league format across 2 weekends. They've decided to take that and create a National League event series. So from 13 to 19, teams are eligible to apply for these showcases and go and compete against other teams from across the nation. We're still awaiting finalized details on that, but it'll consist of 4 to 5 showcases, and we're looking to not compete in all of those, but especially 15 through 19 competing in 2 to 3, and then 13 and 14, maybe 1 to 2 of those showcases. It's a bit of a difference between National League. There is no more National League in the conventional sense for any club. So that's not just unique to us. That's what USU Soccer is moving to as a whole. So as Vince alluded to in the 3 primary things or goals as we look towards next year, exposure and showcases and tournaments become extremely important, especially as we look to the college recruiting years. 11 through 14, some of these tournaments we've competed in the past, and some we're looking to be sending teams to this fall and spring. Grand Park, which is in Indiana, our own Blue Chip, Spring Thaw, and Turf Classic, the OP Invitational, Scott Gallagher Fall Festival, which is in Missouri, CU Elite Invitational, Meade Cup, and Club Ohio, which are all within the tri-state region. For the 15s through 19s, especially as we talk about collegiate showcases, collegiate recruiting, our own Gateway Showcase, Castle, which is in November, the Indy College Showcase and the Disney Showcase in December, Ohio Elite Showcase in February, Jefferson Cup in March, and then we look towards April with the Blue Chip and Crossroads, and then as we alluded to in the last slide, the National Showcase events, which we're not sure when and where those are going to be, but more information to come on those. As we look towards the competition calendar, and this kind of gives you a layout of what the whole year looks like. As we come into the fall season, which generally starts in August, our U11 through U14 teams compete from September to November in the USYS platforming. Our trapped group starts training in August, matches usually September and October, and then they would join their normal teams in November. So then U11 through U14 kind of winding down in November, U15 through U19 starting to look at fall showcases and the resumption of training as they come back from high school. Another milestone kind of showcase, a big one for our red groups, is Disney, which is right after Christmas. And then we move into our winter training period from the middle of January into February. Training for the winter training period still going to consist of 2 times a week. Once indoor and then once outdoor, obviously weather permitting. Then we begin the spring season in March, where our U11 through U19 groups are competing in their local leagues, regional leagues, and state leagues, including 15 through 19, competing at the club versus club level. And then seasons culminate in June with state tournaments and regionals for those groups that make it, and hopefully nationals as well. Some of our training and game facilities here. We will continue to utilize the bubble during the winter. We'll use NKU, Town and Country, Withrow, St. Ursula, as well as Bishop Brossart High School. As we kind of look to wrap this up, encourage everybody to register. Not a slide devoted to it, but it's imperative for our tryout process for this year that everybody goes who's interested in playing next year, registers for the 2020-2021 season. How we will select teams as an academy. Throughout the club, there's some different pockets doing different things. For the Boys and Girls Academy, we're looking to create the most competitive teams that we can. It's the highest level within our club. Us as a staff, as directors, as coaches, and even coaches that aren't within the academy now, but or maybe within the pre-academy or coming into the academy, we will sit down and we will look at the registrations and we'll look at, performance, especially for the 11s through 14s. They had fall and then winter. And then as we look to the 15s through 19s, really only had kind of the late fall and winter, and we'll kind of assess where we feel is best for development. That's not saying that where your son ends up getting an offer, that's where he's going to be for the whole entire year. This is an academy setup, and we will have different pockets of player movement. But due to the way that the state associations have decided to do tryouts this season, which really aren't tryouts because we can't get on the field, this is what we feel is the best way to form teams and then move forward and have the players then train and compete, and then we can make the best informed decisions for their development and their placement from there. So it's not a foregone conclusion that the team that you are on will be the team that you are offered, but we are looking to try and create as many opportunities for as many of our current players as possible. Those offers will go out starting on the 26th, and we will look to form those teams based off of those offers from there. At this time, Tony, if there are any questions, we'll go ahead and answer those. And if there are any questions from any former slides, please feel free to put those in the chat and we'll try and get to them.
Yeah, James, is there going to be any additional cost for trapped 8th graders?
There is. And then the reason why I didn't want to put something in writing in here last year, it was $350. We're still, it's going to be based off of obviously how many kids we have and also what we're offering as far as the league and the tournaments and everything that we're going to be doing, because that can fluctuate based off of numbers. In the past, we've put out information that said it was going to be one price versus another, and we're still having conversations surrounding that, and that information will be out soon.
Okay, when will registration be closing?
Registration for tryouts, I'm assuming that question is...
I'm assuming the tryouts, yeah.
Yeah. Vince, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think registration for our current academy players will be open until the 26th. Is that correct?
Yeah. I believe that this is a registration link that is open to our players as well as anybody from outside of the area. And it does remain open beyond the May 26th date that offers can be made to the players within our club, because you then on the 29th of May, offers can be made to players from outside of the club. So that actually will stay open, I would imagine, until some point into potentially, a period of time in June, just for any other, late applicants essentially. But timing is of the essence here, with the way the state association has set things up for all the member clubs. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
James, how will we be evaluating players from outside the club?
It's a good question, and it's, the way that we're doing tryouts puts us in a bit of a tricky situation. Well, not current players, but outside players. Honestly, we're going to have to go off of, some players have decided to send in videos, and others it will be, based off of knowledge from the current coaching staff and the directors to try and evaluate those players and evaluate where they might best fit in.
Would it be possible to go back to the slide that shows the coaches for the age groups?
Yep.
Then how many tournaments would the U14 age group be playing in tentatively?
5 tournaments and 2 leagues, and that's inclusive of State Cup or President's Cup. Anything else, Tony?
Those are the questions I have for the moment. New one here. For players moving up to U13, how many players are going to be on those teams?
So there's not a set number. So I'm not going to sit here and say that every team's going to have 17 or 18 players. That's going to be a point of conversation for each group to see how many players are of that level that we feel that fit within that team. It really comes down to what we feel is the best for each individual team and for each individual player that's going to be in a group. We don't want to put any players in a position to just fill a quota, but we also want to provide as many opportunities as possible. I'd say a good number to go between would be 16 to 18 is what we look to try and have on a team roster.
Within the club, do the coaches stay with their teams throughout the years, or are there set coaches for different age groups?
I think hopefully I'm answering this correctly. If they're asking for the club policy, there's not a policy set in stone. I think it kind of comes down to where we as a staff of directors feel that coaches best fit with certain groups and coaches best fit with certain age groups. So it's really an individual basis as we look at trying to create the best staff possible. I hope I answered that question. I wasn't sure about necessarily.
Now, will there be a tryout for the trapped eighth graders that will be playing in games versus the trapped eighth graders that will be in the group that is just training?
So we generally use the first week of that training, first week to 2 weeks of that training to kind of, if there's a group that's too large to have everybody play in the matches. Obviously, this is kind of a year-by-year thing because of the fact that we don't know how many trapped kids we're going to have, and the program's open to Central, to South, and also to Academy and Pre-Academy. So we try and make the best decision based off of the numbers that we have. But usually, if they're only going to have one team, there would be an evaluation period for Tehran, and then he would pick a team based off of that for training versus games.
Okay. When will there be more details about the trapped eighth grade teams, such as like the registration time frame?
We're gathering that, and we'll get the link and make sure that gets sent out to everybody within the program.
This is related to the Volta program. Will there be any overlapping with our normal practices and tournaments in the fall in the Volta program?
I think that the best answer for that right now is that we're working on the details of the Volta programming. With as much as gone on during the course of the springtime, our major focus has been on trying to transition into the next segment of play, which, would be, let's say, getting prepared for that fall season. And we will begin having discussions about Volta. We understand there were some conflicts with some trainings as well as some fall team activities, whether they will be league games or maybe some late tournaments. And we want to avoid those conflicts as much as possible. So we are working on that and keeping that into consideration as we begin to build the Volta programming.
Is there a goalkeeping coach for next year?
We are currently working with all of our coaches that we are returning to all programs, the academy program, the pre-academy program, the youth programs, to bring all of our coaches back here. And we have a goalkeeper trainer that we are in conversation with to discuss coming on board for us in the fall. I mean, he began with us in the spring, but we were unable to have but 2 weeks of training with him, and we want to make sure that he wants to return and be a part of what we're doing, and we're working through that. So the intention would be to have a goalkeeper trainer for these academy players.
James and Vince, if you don't mind, can you guys please go back and maybe discuss a little bit in further detail how roster decisions will be made for the existing club players?
Those decisions are going to be made with their current coaches, directors involved in the decision-making process. But we're going to look at our current rosters, look at our obviously our registrations, because not everybody may return, and make decisions for the rosters based off of the knowledge that we have. We can't have an on-field tryout per se, so this we feel is the best process to be able to make those decisions, is to to have conversations with existing staff, future staff, on how we're going to create those rosters.
Okay, what's the oldest age group for Volta?
This past year, I would like to say that it was, I'm going to say most geared towards, say, 13 and 14 and younger. But I do believe that there were a few older age boys teams. James can probably interject there with that. I want to say there were at least 2 older age boys teams. And once again, we are still working through some of the programming with that, of trying to determine league format for them to play, tournament format for them to play, and some other things there. So I think we'd like to try to create as many opportunities as we can in the Volta program, but if we have a limited interest at older age groups, we might not be able to facilitate a team. So but we are working on that programming.
And guys, are any teams planning on playing in June? Is Blue Chip still currently scheduled for June?
Blue Chip's been canceled at this point, unfortunately, just because we aren't going to be able to get back on the field in that kind of time frame. But I know that we are looking into what our options are in June, and providing programming, trying to provide programming in June. Obviously, all of that is subject to stay-at-home orders and governor's orders, and what we're considered sport-wise and when we're able to get back. But it is on our radar to try and provide something. I don't know if you want to add to that, Vince, but.
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, we're going to work within the guidelines that are provided with us by Kentucky Youth Soccer, Ohio South Youth Soccer, U.S. Youth Soccer. They have an advisory board where they are trying to provide the best recommendations for member clubs to adhere to keep coaches and staff safe, as well as players and parents that might be dropping them off. I want to trying to keep everybody safe, and that's they're still coming up with their best plans for that, or best practices, let's call it.
Well, along those same lines, though, we are obviously we would not do anything till we get the green light, as Vince just said, but we are in contact with other clubs and trying to be proactive on, okay, if we can get on the field, what does that look like, and how can we, provide something? So as a boys academy, I've been in contact with other clubs to try and say, okay, let's think about this. So we are starting to think about that and trying to put something together.
Is Zoom training going to continue throughout the summer until training resumes in the fall?
We have the calendar set up through the end of May here. We will certainly reevaluate that, the potential of that. It's not something we want to say no to. We've had good participation through the various ages, and it's definitely something that we want to figure out if we can continue. Depending on what that timeline looks like. And hopefully we can get out in the middle of June. And if that means we extend this training into the middle of June, then by all means, we certainly will attempt to do that.
Will training resume in August?
We hope so. As of right now, the formal schedule for training would have us beginning in August. Obviously, there's a little bit of unknown surrounding that, but we're hopeful to start back in August with the formal fall schedule. In between then, we obviously don't know.
Will there be any availability as far as one-on-one training sessions during the summer or recommendations for a trainer if players and families wanted to get extra training and extra practice?
I would absolutely recommend that, you do reach out to, James on that. It is something that we are, I'm going to say, quote unquote, developing, meaning a one-on-one and small group training program to be able to offer to Kings Hammer players. If there is interest, like I said, you can reach out. I would say I would recommend not reaching out though prior to this stage of registration and stuff for just the fear of hopefully, of maybe that email getting lost within the mix with everything else going on. But once we get through this period, I would definitely recommend reaching out to the program directors, and we might have something available on the website as well to be able to offer to people. All of this, it's dependent upon the ability to keep people safe, of course, and the guidelines that the health agencies and, the youth soccer associations provide us with.
Okay, will there be a plan for high school players if the high school season is canceled?
I think we're kind of trying to come up with as many contingencies as we can. Something we've definitely heard about, the news that some of that is starting to be talked about. I think until we get more information surrounding that, what that looks like, we really don't have a solution. But it is definitely on our radar, and we know that that's being talked about amongst the high school associations.
Was there an official announcement from the club regarding the cancellation of Blue Chip?
I believe that Dave and Lisa have been sending out the updates and the communication on that. I would probably have to just go back and look through emails, but yes, I believe there was.
Yeah. I think as far as an actual club-wide communication to every single person, I don't believe so, but I know that Dave did send out to the teams that had registered for Blue Chip that was unfortunately not going to happen.
Correct. Yes. You're right, James. My apologies. Yes. To those that were participating in it, yes, the communication should have been sent out.
Anything else, Tony?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So, unless we get some late questions here, if you do have any specific questions about your son or about anything else, please feel free to reach out. We can definitely work to get you guys an answer. I appreciate you all making some time on a Sunday to come and hear about our programming and let us kind of get in front of you for this. So thank you very much.
James, we have an additional question here. Should the seasons be flip-flopped for the high school schedule? Say if high school is moved to the spring, how would the club handle that conflict with the normal club season schedule and then the new high school schedule?
Until we have more details on how that's going to work for each state association and high school, it's hard for me to answer that. We would want to be as accommodating as possible because obviously we know that this is a difficult situation for everybody. So I can tell you that we would look to work with players and teams to try and create the best environment possible. I think that's really going to vary by team and by player because obviously with spring bring a big recruiting time. I think there's some differences to certain players and what they would want to do. But we are definitely, if that comes to fruition, would look to work with players, work with the state associations themselves in creating our calendars, creating our schedules, and what we would do, because we would obviously want to maximize that college exposure for all of our players, because that would be very important for them. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Hopefully see you on the field sometime soon.
Thank you all for your time this evening. We really appreciate it.